People are making millions of dollars speaking to their phones. I want you to really think about that. Literally millions of dollars from having a phone and speaking. We speak every day. You probably have a phone because you're watching this video, and they're making millions of dollars doing this. And it's not just about the money. It's also about the impact that you want to have on the world. Like, people deserve to hear your thoughts, your ideas, your stories. And maybe you felt this way. Maybe you felt like when you sat down to record a video, you're like, man, like, I know I have good ideas, but I'm not communicating them in a way that's effective. I'm not like really conveying what I have to say in a way that's beneficial to the viewer. Or maybe you felt this way with a new group of people. You're like, when I sit with my friends and I talk to them, you know, what I'm saying, I come across confidently, but with this new group of people, I feel like I'm hesitating and I'm repeating myself and I'm stuttering. Maybe you felt this way. I used to feel like that as well, but now I've been posting videos consistently. I've done stand-up comedy one time in front of like 200 people. So now I'm going to share with you the things that have helped me in my speech and articulation. And I'm going to do this video in one take, because if you've ever recorded a video, you know it's like a lot harder to do it in one take than it is to read a line and cut up the video, right? So the number one thing that's helped me is pretending that I'm speaking to a friend. So the camera is just a camera, right? But you want to visualize the other person on at the other side of the camera. And it's not an audience. You don't want to visualize an audience. You want to visualize an individual. So pick one person that you're speaking to, and pretend that you're actually talking to that one person. Like for me, it's one of my coaching clients, right? And if you think this video is going to be helpful, you can hop on a call for free with the link in the description. But it's one of my coaching clients because I know this video is for that one specific person. Like the best YouTubers, the best stand-up comedians, the best public speakers, they make it feel like you're in the room with them. They make it feel like it's just you that you're speaking to. Because the people who speak about like the entire audience, they don't come across as like it's a conversation. It comes across as a presentation. But a conversation is better than a presentation because meaningful conversations can like change your life. Like conversations with your friends, I'm sure have really like changed your perspective on certain things. So if you can like recreate that feeling by just being someone who's online, an online public speaker, then you can really make an impact. Because like I said, you want it to feel like a conversation, not a presentation. So pretend that you're speaking to a friend. And the next thing I want you to do is I want you to practice. I want you to practice video journaling. So when you speak to your phone, you could just speak to your phone about your day, and then you'll get a lot better speaking on camera because it's a skill. It's a skill to be able to do this. It takes practice. And the way you can practice, you just speak about your day. Just tell yourself stories about like what happened today. And if you do that every day, from day 1 to day 30, you'll see drastic changes. And I know this because this is my 28th day posting on YouTube in a row. Before I was making like comedy skits, I still do that sometimes. But posting on YouTube, this is 28 days in a row. And from day 1 to day 28, I see like a drastic change in my ability to communicate my ideas and my ability to speak on camera. Like from day 1, I wouldn't be able to do this in one take. So it's really important to get that practice in. And if you do it every day, it'll start to be part of your routine. And if it becomes part of your routine, eventually it becomes part of your identity. And if it's part of your identity, you start to get really good at it. So do it every day. And you want to do this in one take if you can, right? So allow yourself to mess up, allow yourself to repeat yourself. And that's okay, because when you're giving a presentation or you're public speaking, you're doing stand-up comedy or live streaming online, you don't get to edit the video. So try and do it with as minimal editing as possible. And that's why my videos, I try and do limited editing. Like sometimes you'll see some cuts in my videos because I do edit it because I want it to be useful to the viewer. But generally speaking, I try and do these in as few cuts as possible. And the same thing you should be doing when you're practicing speaking, because you don't want to give yourself that luxury. You don't want to give yourself that crutch. You want to be able to actually improve at where you're at. And where you're at may be repeating yourself when you have to say something. And that's okay. But don't beat yourself up over it. Just try and focus on getting better by practicing. So it'll take a few takes sometimes to do it. It'll take some time, some practice to actually get there. But eventually, the more you do it, the more you'll get into a flow state. And once you get over like this fear and this uncomfortable feeling of speaking on camera, sometimes you'll get into a flow state. And that's when you feel like time is just passing by. Like you don't even notice it. You don't even notice time is passing by. You feel like you're in the zone. When people say they're in the zone, maybe you felt this way like playing basketball or playing video games or something. You feel like, man, I just can't miss a shot right now. Like I'm drilling every shot and I'm just in the zone. Sometimes you can feel like that speaking, but you have to get over the uncomfortable feeling. You have to get over the hesitation. And the only way to do that is to practice. If you see me look to the side, I'm looking at my notes. So it's okay to repeat yourself, and it's okay to really overcome that fear. Like give yourself the luxury of practicing so that eventually you can get into that flow state. Okay, so the next thing I want you to focus on is the content that you consume. So videos like this are helpful. You know what I mean? Like things that are a little bit more long form are helpful because it starts to teach you to be a long form thinker more than a short form thinker. So if you read books, listen to podcasts, watch longer form YouTube videos, then that'll teach you to think through things in a longer format. Because so much of social media right now is teaching you to switch topics every 5 seconds. Like scrolling on TikTok or Instagram Reels or YouTube Shorts, it's teaching you to like switch topics consistently. But that's not what effective speakers do. Effective speakers can talk for like an hour on one topic. So if you're able to read or watch videos or audiobooks or podcasts, stuff like that, that'll teach you to think more in a long form way. Because when you're speaking about something, you want to have a really good understanding of it. That's when you don't feel as nervous speaking about it because you're like, okay, no, I know 10 times more than what I'm speaking about. So having that long understanding of that long form understanding of a topic is so beneficial because then it's like you won't feel as nervous because you know what you're talking about. So try and prioritize consuming that type of content. And sometimes, I mentioned that you're going to repeat yourself when you're speaking, right? But sometimes you want to repeat yourself in order to make a point because what is remembered from your video is more important than what is clever. Because you may think you have a clever idea and you're like, oh man, I really drilled home that analogy. I really made that point effectively. But if it's not remembered, then it doesn't really matter that much. If people remember like certain phrases or how you make them feel, but if it's not like remembered, then who cares whether or not it's clever or not? Because what is remembered is more important than what is clever. What is remembered is more important than what is clever. As you can see, I repeated myself because I want to drill home this point. Hopefully it wasn't too obvious that I was trying to make this point by repeating myself. And another thing you can focus on is your body language. So before I start recording, I try to like sit up straight and like make sure like my body language is good. And I don't do this all the time, but that's one way of making sure your voice is actually projecting. Because if you're closed off like this, it's harder to like project your voice, right? But if you're standing up straight and you have an open body language, it's showing to the audience that like, hey, I'm revealing the things I have to say. Like I'm okay with being a little bit vulnerable. Whereas if you're closed off, you're trying to like protect yourself. It gives the audience the idea that like you want to protect yourself and what you have to say is not as important as someone who's really open and vulnerable and really conveying something that could be judged. You know what I mean? Because the reason we don't want to be vulnerable is because we're afraid of judgment. But if you're okay with being vulnerable, then it shows to the audience that you have confidence. It shows to the audience that you believe what you are saying. And that's really important because a lot of communication is nonverbal, especially like one-on-one in-person communication, like with a group of people. Like 80% of it is nonverbal. So focusing on your body language and being like, hey, am I standing up straight? Am I going into this with confident body language? That'll be important, but you don't want to overthink it. You don't want to be constantly thinking like, oh man, I'm hunching a little bit or whatever. Just visualize yourself delivering what you have to say confidently with good body language, and you'll naturally just start to like open up. So you want to picture yourself doing that more so than you want to like think about all of the specific steps to improve your body language. And you want to picture it going well. Like before you give a speech or you like go talk to like a new group of people, just visualize it like going well. Visualize them laughing at your jokes or smiling at what you have to say and you guys getting along. And you can visualize yourself being friends with this person. Like when I record videos, I'm kind of visualizing like one of my coaching clients finding this useful. I'm visualizing them laughing at my jokes. So it's like you want your mind to be on your side because so many people, they doubt themselves and they think of like all of the worst case scenarios. But what you could do is, even though you can't control those thoughts because they can be sometimes automatic, you can insert positive pictures in your mind, like positive images of things going well. And that'll kind of offset the negative thoughts you have. It'll kind of offset the doubt that you have in your mind. And listen, I'm not saying this is going to be easy. It takes time to be able to articulate yourself on camera properly. It takes time to develop the skill of speaking in a way that's effective to the viewer. But if you put the time in and you practice it, it will be worth it. Life's not easy, but it's worth it.